something which is going to benefit the local community, the local villagers. In March, I was trekking to the Annapurna range in Nepal, and I was really happy to see that the village over there, every village has their own micro hydels, which is supplying power to these villages, and which is taken care by the villagers themselves, and it's a very, very effective measure. Now, but these are two different separate issues, you know. One is generating power for the national grid and taking hydropower as a business to make our state sustainable, you know, because we are in great debts, and of course there has to be a revenue. But the second case is the hydroelectric powers, you know, small really micro hydels, in the sense we are talking of projects up to 400 kilowatt or, you know, small 1 megawatt or something, which are community owned, you know, which are made with the investment of the community, and they are directly benefiting the community. So we have already set up 2 demonstration sites, one in the Lug Valley with the help of the Forest Department, and one near the Great Himalayan National Park with WWF India. The third, which is closest to my heart, which I am overseeing personally, is a hydroelectric, these floor mill hydroelectric project, which is going to happen in one of the remotest villages in the valley, which is called Shakti, which is just next to the Great Himalayan National Park. And without electricity for all these years, they've never seen electricity. So last week we have conducted the surveys, the equipment is there, and at the moment, because of the winters, the input to the ghats is very less, but we are still calculating, and we will set up this by winters, and next March it should be operational. Now that to me is a very effective solution personally, because I believe in small things. I don't believe in bigger things, you know, because that's something which I can directly handle, and yeah, that's happening.
Okay, I had an interview with Arun Kumar Sharma, Director Tourism. He said one of the biggest stumbling blocks is the concentration of tourists in Shimla, Manali and Dharamsala, and that the surrounding areas are not being explored or exploited. He also said that there is a big transportation problem, that there is only roadways, and that also is a stumbling block. And the other thing is that he said that the average tourist spends 900 rupees a day and the maximum they stay is 3 days. Now, I asked him what and why Himachal is not attracting the kind of tourists that do come to India, who go to the Golden Triangle, who have a lot of money to spend, and what this is a miss. You have seen the interview. Can you please talk a little about the ecology, tourism, and servicing of tourists?
Well, to me, the ecology, the tourism, and the service oriented, as I see, you know, the answer is bringing up these small scale village enterprises. The answer is ecotourism. It is the fastest growing tourism sector in the whole world. People want to see a lot, but I would say they are just forced to see Manali or Dharamsala or Shimla, because this has become what Himachal is all about in tourism. And to an extent, the government is to be blamed. You know, there is no, till now, tourism is one of the thrust industries for Himachal, and they generate so much revenue out of it. We just have one hotel management institute. We have, tourism is only 2 colleges in the whole state, you know. Now, and the thing is that there is definitely a problem of transportation. As soon as you tell to any foreigner, for example, that you are doing a 14-hour bus journey, I have met so many of them for which this is the longest journey of their life on road, you know. But those are larger scale issues. at the moment, you know, ecotourism for our state is just homestays. Nobody goes into the real extent of what is the cultural impact of homestays. Are these homestay people trained enough to handle tourists? You know, and
Do they speak English?
do they speak English? Do they, you know, for example, the Great Himalayan National Park. Nobody knows of the Great Himalayan National Park. You know, you talk to people in Manali, which is the prime hub for, you know, tourists. Nobody knows of the Great Himalayan National Park, and it is a thing which is going to come in the United Nations World Heritage Site. So sadly for the state, the thrust has just remained on these three places, and whatever efforts have been taken to offbeat places are not, they're just, you know, they're so low scale that it's very difficult to kind of, you know, sustain. I think that the state needs to see its marketing strategy in a holistic view, and really market these nature. People are very happy staying in homestays. You know, the only homestay of the Kullu Valley, which is in Tirthan next to the Great Himalayan National Park, has been termed as the 100 top destination by Outlook Traveler magazine in their annual issue, you know, in their anniversary issue, and that's in the Kullu Valley itself. That's the only thing that features from Himachal, and that's a homestay. So one needs to see that the trends are changing, and the sooner we catch on to ecotourism as a concept, you know, Forest Department has made up a ecotourism society, you know, which is dishing out rest houses to interested parties, as they say, from all over India. Whereas ecotourism society was made to bring up community-based ecotourism in forest, because the Forest Department is the most omnipresent department in the whole state, much more than the tourism department. Yeah, but it has taken a tangent, and it is fund-starved, you know, the eco-sock, as they say. And as of now, there is nothing ecotourism about it.
Because when I was talking to Arun Sharma, he said that ecotourism falls under the forestry department and not under the tourist department.
It's ecotourism has become a fight between the tourism and the forest department, you know. And
so both of them are saying it belongs to the other person.
It is, you know, it is like a shadi happening. It is a strange marriage between the forest and the tourism department, and all the rest are spectators. They are mollawalas, you know, and they are kind of. It happens in marriages, you know. There are Indian marriages, especially, where thousands of people are invited to a marriage, and you know, they're just making fun, you know. And the forest department and the tourism department are the bride and the groom. I think
reluctant bride and reluctant
groom. Yeah, exactly. Arranged marriage system. So one has to come up above all this, you know. I think they need to have much more coordination amongst themselves, and tourism is a very potent force, you know, for countries like Nepal. We have examples, right, for Sri Lanka, Nepal, you know, even throughout India. If you study best case studies, see Sikkim, ECOS, you know, Ecotourism Society of Sikkim. See Ladakh, the Snow Leopard Conservancy, and their work. Now, examples are all there, you know, but these best case studies needs to be picked up. Sadly for us, you know, it has become, tourism has just become like it's like you know, somebody's ideas or somebody's baby without any research work going into it. It's so spontaneous, and it flares up and it dies down, you know, with the coming of people. I think one needs to rise above this, make efforts which are based on proper research, you know, which include data gathering, primary data, secondary data, and see best case studies of similar environments throughout the world in developing nations. And that's what my PhD is about. It's about a model which contains the government, the NGO and the private enterprise working hand in hand, you know, effectively to bring up an area and community in sustainable tourism. These are just buzzwords for Himachal as of now, you know. There are so many conferences I attend ecotourism, you know.